Now, this is also amazing. This is word association around political parties. Now, there's a lot of it, so stick with me and follow the little red dot. What essentially happens is we say to people, forget who you vote for and like and don't like, just clear your mind. But we're going to put a word or a phrase to you, and we want you to tell us which political party you thought of. So I'll do some of these for you. Best at providing service delivery. 32% of registered voters said that's the ANC, but 36% said it's the DA. They're beating the ANC on this at the moment. The EFF at 12, ASA at 4. Best at clean governance, the DA wins. Best at working in coalitions, ANC and DA, neck and neck, they're both on 29. Which party has good policies? The DA beat the ANC even on that one. Provides good leadership, the DA is ahead. Provides accountability, the DA wins. Which party is racist? The EFF won that one at 35. The DA was at 26. Which party breaks its promises? The ANC got 73. And the EFF very low, which is right, because the EFF doesn't break its promise. Tells you exactly what it will do if it's in government. It never changes the message. People believe it. Let's go to only cares about themselves, the ANC at 55. Spreads hatred, it's the EFF at 51. Violent, it's the EFF at 70. That's why the EFF can't break well above 10% of the vote, because its brand is violence and anarchy in a moderate society. ANC fatally wounded, because its brand is corruption and incompetence and lies and betrayal and total uselessness. And it can't get out of that again because it can't replicate the rates of growth that it secured in the first 10 years that brought about the improvements in living standards that saw its support rise, if you recall the early graphics, from 63 to 70%. And then anti-poor, the ANC wins with 40%, the EFF and the DA at 20. Something else that strikes you, we're going to get to what the parties have, but the DA is polling consistently on our numbers at 24, 25. But it's at 36 on that one. It's on 30 on all the others. So something is, there's a short circuit somewhere that the DA has, and it's a bit of a proxy here for the broader opposition. It mustn't just be credited to the DA. The very important milestone, it's an immense battle to convince the public that the alternatives are better. That battle has already been won, was well on the way. It has been, on the numbers it's won. Has already been won by the broader opposition. They haven't yet translated that into an electoral advantage or sufficient one. Why? Here, message testing. So we test messages, things politicians might say, see what everyone thinks of them. The DA will bring back apartheid. And you can agree strongly with that or somewhat or disagree strongly. Black, all voters, about, what would that be, 35% or so, agree that DA will bring back apartheid. Amongst black voters, the figure's over 50%. Disagree strongly amongst black voters, the figure sits at about just over 25%. Now this, I'll explain what's going on here because it's very complicated. But first point is in the black voting bloc and also in the ANC bloc, time and time again appear 25 to 30% of voters who answer questions in the same way that a DA voter would answer the same question. They wouldn't see themselves as DA supporters, but they are indicating all strong support for the same ideas and values that motivate DA voters to vote. We focus group as well, in addition to polling directly, and the focus group stuff on this suggests that bring back apartheid doesn't mean apartheid as it was. It means instead that there's a perception that the DA creates an insider-outsider dynamic where it governs. A great life for the insiders, and then around that is a periphery of people who commute into that inside circle to work or so on. The periphery might be better than where the ANC governs. But the perception is such that at a certain level, the demand is almost to vote for an echo of a colonial administration. And many voters find that difficult to do. It's a hard thing to do. The DA makes it hard for them to come across. To show the willingness to come across, DA makes it difficult. If you look in the, let's do the same, bring back apartheid, we've got availables and in-reach and peripherals. Amongst the, you can see why peripherals are peripheral, because DA will bring back apartheid gets very, very strong. It's not the only question we use for this. We use a whole battery of questions to determine a peripheral and available. But inside the available base, only a third hold that view. And remember, the available base is 47% of all registered voters, and of those, 73% are black voters. So this, you know, hoary old kind of cliche is a real problem inside the DA to address. It's not just a passing thing. A second reason making it very difficult to whittle reluctant ANC supporters out of the ANC is what we see here. If the ANC loses, there will be violence and anarchy in society. And agreeing strongly with that is 40% of all voters, and of available voters, roughly the same, and in-reaches and peripherals. And I don't know, do we put up, we don't put up the ANC, but the ANC figure, I think, for this is 50% or higher. The analogy we like to use is that ANC voters are a bit like a person in an abusive relationship. There might have been a courtship that was good, and then there might have been a wedding, and might have been very nice, and initially there might have been a great era of happiness, a honeymoon, and then after that, successes. But for 10 or 15 years, the ANC governed South Africa much better than it was ever given credit for. And life got better, and ANC support rose. And then the relationship began to sour. And in focus groups that we've done, ANC voters actually planted the idea in my mind that it's like a woman in an abusive relationship. And anyone in that position, if you've ever had sort of experience of trying to help someone with that, you'll know that in a cold, rational moment, the partner that's being abused will say, I know I need to go. But they stay in the relationship. And they stay in the relationship because the world out there is too alien and hostile, and there's a fear, an actual fear of the consequences of leaving. And in many respects, I think there's about a third of the ANC voter base. So it's a third of it's about 15% of the next election, which wants to go but is afraid to leave. And the opposition isn't making it easy for them to go, partly because they're ignorant of this, partly because they don't take seriously enough the previous chart, and partly because when you spend all your time squabbling with each other, you don't instill the realistic belief in the electorate that if you govern, life will become better. So you rather stay inside the ANC.